Everyone has human rights. Your human rights include things like your right to be free from violence, your freedom to follow a religion, your privacy, your rights to work, adequate housing and food, to health and social security, to help from the law, and more. Sometimes some rights can be limited or restricted, for example, if it's needed to protect others' safety or where other people's rights are at risk. Although we should all have the same rights, some people's rights are not always met in reality. Some people's rights are more at risk than others. For example, disabled people, children, women, black and minority ethnic people, and older people. Human rights laws say how everyone's rights should be protected by their governments and parliaments and by other public authorities like local councils, NHS services, and the police. Human rights laws also say what governments and public authorities should do to make sure everyone's human rights are upheld. For example, they should provide primary education, make sure everyone has access to food, and protect people from violence. They also say what governments and public authorities must not do. For example, they must not take away your freedom without good reason or torture you. Human rights laws also say when your rights can be restricted and for what reasons. But where do human rights and the laws that protect them come from? And how do they work in practice in Scotland? Human rights have been talked about and protected by laws in different ways in different countries for hundreds of years. But it was only after the Second World War that countries around the world got together for the first time to agree and write down what human rights are for everyone, everywhere. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights was adopted by 48 countries in 1948, including the UK. It lists 30 fundamental rights and freedoms that everyone should have. In Scotland, some of these rights are now protected by Scottish laws. This means the courts in Scotland can make sure those human rights are respected. These are the rights set out in the European Convention on Human Rights and the Human Rights Act. These laws protect rights like the right to vote, rights to private and family life, and rights to freedom from torture or unfair detention, sometimes known as civil and political rights. Other international rights, like rights to housing, health and social security, can't be enforced in the UK or Scottish courts, not at the moment. But these rights are set out in international laws. These laws mean that the Scottish Government, Scottish Parliament and other Scottish public authorities have duties within their designated areas of responsibility to respect, protect and fulfil everyone's rights. The United Nations checks how countries are doing when it comes to their legal duties to protect human rights. Our next animation looks at this in more detail.